Now, for more on this, Florida Congressman and former naval aviator Scott Franklin. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So, two crashes separated by just 2 days. I know you spent 26 years as a naval aviator. Should Americans be concerned about air travel?
Well, in any form of travel, there's always risk. But I still think America's aviation safety system is the safest in the world. It's the safest form of transportation we have. But unfortunately, as long as there's ever any element of risk, there will occasionally be accidents. In this case, we just happen to have two right on the heels of one another, and they've gotten a lot of the community's attention.
Yeah, investigations are still ongoing there in both of those crashes. Secretary of Transportation, though, Sean Duffy, was asked by CNN this weekend about President Trump's DEI concerns in the FAA. Take a listen to his response here.
I do know that in the last administration, they were focused on not safety, but they were focused on changing the name from cockpit to flight deck. Or notice to airmen, they wanted to change it to notice to air mission. They focused on EVs and sustainability and racist roads, things that don't matter in regard to safety. Our mission since the start has been safety, and they've lost that mission. And we see when you don't focus on safety and you focus on social justice or the environment, bad things happen.
So what do you think about the changes with this administration that they want to make here with the FAA, the military now putting, the previous administration was putting safety over DEI, or rather DEI over safety. Do you think that we're going to see more of those changes, and can they start to weed out some of these people that were in there that may not be qualified for it?
Well, I think the investigation will show ultimately what happened here. Regardless of whether we're talking aviation safety or any area in government, people expect that the best and most qualified people will be hired to do the job. So if we find evidence that that's not been the case, then we'll certainly root that out. But, you know, air traffic control is one of those situations where the only standard is perfection. So I don't care if people are purple or green or whatever their persuasion. I want the people who are best in the world at doing that job.
Yeah, and to further your point, you know, I spoke with a pilot last week, and he said the same thing. He flew those Black Hawk helicopters, and he said, you know, a lot of times that he was flying, it was in the dark, and he had no idea what the person next to him looked like. And it didn't matter to him because he just wanted the person who was the most qualified. Do you feel like that is what this current administration is trying to do, to make sure that the most qualified people are out there?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the case, and that's been evident in everything that President Trump promised on the campaign trail and what we're seeing now. But I do want to be careful that we don't lock into one aspect of this and miss out on the possibilities of learning.
Right.
Aviation safety in our country has a long history that's unfortunately been written in blood. And, we are infinitely safer as an air traffic control system than we were decades ago, where I would say, aviation safety back in the 50s and 60s was borderline dangerous. It's become, there's always an element of risk involved, but the more we can learn and mitigate, the safer we're going to be. And I think we've already seen some things come out of this, particularly in the D.C. incident, that are causing some changes in procedures that, in hindsight, probably shouldn't have been there to begin with.
Right, right.
Yeah, more will come out with those investigations, too. Last week, you were chosen as the chairman of the Science, Space, and Technology Environment Subcommittee, which oversees disaster readiness. Today marks 2 years since the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment. See how the Biden administration handled that disaster. And then most recently, we saw what happened with the hurricane, with the wildfires is another example. What long-term changes are you hoping to see here with this administration?
Well, I think we need to get back to really looking at the science. Everyone says trust the science and follow it. Environmental disasters are a part of life, whether it's weather inflicted, there are going to be those things. We need to look at the ability to predict when it comes to weather, better weather prediction. We need to be able to mitigate the risks associated with those, and then be able to have systems in place to get people back on their feet in the aftermath.
All right, Congressman, great to have you on this morning. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, much more to come here.